Social listening is the #1 reason that your business needs to be on Twitter. Why? Because people are complaining on Twitter about your business. Not really, but actually really. Twitter is primarily a customer service channel. People will go to Twitter when they've had a bad experience with your product, even if it was their fault, and they will publicly complain about it. They will tag you in their complaint or mention your brand name. They'll even create a negative hashtag around their experience. So it's absolutely critical that you are monitoring for these mentions and responding appropriately. And that's the same for your positive mentions. You want to build that brand goodwill. And you can also use listening to help with your content and product strategies. So what is social monitoring and listening, and what's the difference? Monitoring is monitoring for brand mentions and replying appropriately. It could be positive, it could be negative. Social listening takes it a step further by analyzing overall sentiment. What are the majority of people saying about your brand on Twitter? Is it a positive sentiment? Is it a negative sentiment? Are there common topics or threads they're talking about? Maybe multiple people are talking about your new product and how they don't like one feature. And then you can then take that listening and send it to your product team as feedback. So it's just taking that monitoring and taking it a step further and really diving into how people are talking about your business on Twitter and what you can do with that information. So kind of use it as like a survey tool. Successful brands on Twitter do both. They monitor and respond appropriately. They take it that step further and find those common trends that can actually help other departments. So you want to use social monitoring and listening first and foremost to monitor for and respond to those brand mentions. Don't ignore them. That can blow up in your face. Increase that brand awareness by engaging in topics that are relevant to your brand. So you want to listen for chatter in your industry and think about, do I have content pieces that are connected to that topic? Or is this something that I can then create because my audience is asking for it? So you can find that content inspiration. For instance, let's say you're at an event. You want to listen for, on Twitter, what are people talking about? What are some of the sessions they found the most value in? What do they want to know? And then you can use that to guide your content. You can find gaps in your marketing plan. Maybe someone isn't making the connection from your marketing campaign to your actual product or service. And you can let your marketing team know, hey, there's something missing here. You can also monitor for feedback on your product or service. So if you notice a lot of people are talking about a particular aspect of your product or service and what they don't like about it, or maybe what they love about it, you can then pass along that feedback to your product department. It can be like a pat on the back, hey, great job. Or it can be like, hey, this feature sucks, we can fix it. So reactive versus proactive platform. Twitter is both, and you can both be reactive and proactive. Reactive tactics are monitoring and responding to both direct mentions and people talking about your brand, monitoring and engaging with industry news and trending topics, and monitoring and engaging with real-time trends as they're happening and events that are relevant to your brand. So the key here with reactive, it's all about monitoring what's already happening and then engaging appropriately. Whereas proactive, you're being proactive. It hasn't happened yet, you're planning out your content in advance. Planning and creating content that attracts your target audience, you need to be doing that. Plan your content around upcoming events. So let's say you're hosting an event, you want to already plan out your tweets ahead of time to gain that awareness for your event. And then actively seeking out and engaging with users. So the key here is to be both reactive and proactive with your Twitter. So listen for brand mentions. JetBlue and all airlines get a ton of brand mentions. So usually it's complaints, but JetBlue does a great job because they always reply appropriately. The key with complaints is you want to apologize, let them know that you hear you, and get them off the public timeline and into a direct message. You can listen for conversations around your brand. That's different than mentions because these people are talking about your brand, but they're not tagging your handle. So you want to be able to set up tools listening tools where it pulls in everybody that's talking about, in this case, Wendy's. What Wendy's does is they take it a step further and they quote tweet. So people will talk about their brand, they'll quote tweet it and add their own input, and it's usually always something snarky and fun and engaging. Listen for conversations around relevant topics. So this is a great way to increase brand awareness and engagement. People are not talking about your brand in particular, but they're talking about something that is relevant to your brand, and then you can come in and provide value. This is a great example. So this person found a bike that was stolen and posted it on Twitter, shared it on Twitter. And then a bike company actually said, hey, as a good Samaritan, we want to give you a bike. So what does this do? Well, it increases brand awareness for sure, but it also promotes that goodwill. And people are going to have good thoughts about Halfords because of how they handled this conversation. So be careful when using this tactic though. You'll see too many brands make the mistake of jumping into a trending topic or a relevant conversation, and it's either inappropriate or they have nothing of value to add. So you want to make sure you're adding to the conversation. You're not just randomly replying to conversations to get your brand out there. That's going to be the opposite of goodwill. People won't like it. So make sure you add value first. So here's a great quote. Twitter is all about conversations. The more you can identify relevant conversations and the people who are having them, the better chance you have to make a good name for yourself on Twitter. So always think about how you can actually add to the conversation instead of just trying to shout at people. So now it's critical to know the difference between a complaint and a troll. A lot of brands make the mistake of seeing a complaint and thinking, oh, they're angry, they're a troll. No, a Twitter troll purposely post divisive, irrelevant content with a thought to disrupt that particular channel. So in this case, Twitter. Their main goal is that they just want to disrupt it and throw the conversation off and make Twitter a toxic place for people to be. It's often inflammatory, but it can also be, think of spam posts that you see. It can be spam posts with links for monetary gain like Bitcoin, or it can even be of a sexual nature. So be on the lookout for these. For instance, this is spam. So we posted this tweet, the 8 components of its successful subject line, and we got this reply, and it's just a link to his Fiverr account. So what you can do here is you can just block this person and you won't get any of their replies. They won't be able to even see your account anymore. You can also just report an issue and report a tweet. And you can get different categories. The main one you're going to use is it's suspicious or spam when you get these like random links. So complaint versus a troll. Troll is maliciously trying to disrupt Twitter, trying to be inflammatory. A complaint is from a legitimate person that has engaged with your brand in some way. It could be a customer. It could be someone that is tired of your emails. It could also be someone that maybe read a blog post and didn't agree with what you had to say, and they publicly come on Twitter to complain. Just because a reply is abrasive doesn't mean it comes from a troll. If the complaint is about your brand and something that you did or you provide, you need to address it in a timely manner and direct people into a private conversation. So the reason why complaints are amplified on Twitter, and you may have seen this from brands where something blows up and they ignore it and it just spirals out of control from retweets. People even have hashtags where it says so-and-so brand sucks. That's the hashtag. And they use that to complain about this one brand. That's spiraling out of control. The barriers for complaints are very minimal on Twitter. It's not like they have to get approval for their bad review or their complaint. They can just go on Twitter and post it. The character limit, because of its limit, that means a lot of the complaints are going to be kind of broad. They don't have a lot of characters to express what happened. So it's your job to pull that information out of them in a direct message. Lack of identity information. A lot of times you don't know who these people are. You can go to their Twitter profile. That's going to take up a lot of time if you get a lot of complaints, but also a lot of profiles are incomplete. You're not sure who this person is, so there's no way to really contact them outside of Twitter. And as I said, one complaint can blow up and spark negativity. People hop on, retweet it, engage with it, it keeps it going. So how to respond to a complaint? So in this example, a public and legitimate complaint, this person bought a course, they never got access. Use this reply, you apologize, let them know you hear them and how frustrating that experience must be. And then let them know you want to get this taken care of right away. We're going to get this to the customer care team as soon as possible. Please send us a direct message. Use that call to action to get them off of the public and into a private conversation. So then if this person doesn't reply, they don't send you that direct message, you may want to give them the option of additional contact. So in this case, it could be a dedicated customer support email. The key here is apologize, show empathy. We understand how frustrating the situation is. We sincerely apologize. We want to get it taken care of as soon as possible. And the best way to do that is let's get the right information in a direct message or even an email. So you don't want it to continue to spiral on the public timeline. And you also want to avoid being like, well, hey, if you had just done this, it would have worked type of thing. They may be in the wrong, but addressing that on Twitter where it's public is not the right way to do it. Okay, so we've talked about the difference between a troll and a complaint and when to respond to a complaint and the best way to do that. But now let's take a look at how Twitter can actually help your customer support team. So you definitely want to be using monitoring and listening on Twitter, but you may need to take it a step further and really get your customer support team actively involved in your Twitter. And this will happen if you get a lot of brand chatter. So people are primarily using Twitter to talk about your brand. You want to bring your customer support team in on it. So a good way to do this is simply to tag a customer support member in a reply, and then they can take over the conversation. So that's a good way. A better way is to have a dedicated customer support team member actively monitoring and responding on Twitter. The best way is to actually have a dedicated Twitter profile for customer support. So you'll see this a lot for bigger brands. And that way people can tweet at that handle that's for support and get immediate engagement, replies, but it's also a great way to separate your core business Twitter with the support questions. So the best practices for offering customer support on Twitter is prompt replies. Don't leave a long gap between someone's complaint or question and your reply. We understand you can't maybe reply immediately, but there's tools where you can set up automatic replies, or you can set aside time each day to go through your mentions and reply. Personalize to each customer. Yes, you can have templates where you're copying and pasting, but you want to give that personalized touch. Use their name, speak to their specific question or concern. Sign your replies. This could be your initials or your name, your first name, just a way to personalize it. Plus, if people go off of Twitter and contact your customer support team in another avenue, they can say, hey, I was talking to Shannon on Twitter. They'll know who you are. So you want to be helpful and conversational. Don't sound like a bot. You'll see this happen with automated replies. They're set off by certain terms, and that can go very wrong. So you want to be sure to monitor that, because sometimes people are using a term in a different way and they'll get the automated reply and it won't be relevant at all. So be helpful and conversational. Have a conversation with them. Let them know, hey, I hear you. I'm a person too. I'm here to help. So this is a great example. Zappos, they go the extra mile with their responses. Be human and provide value, even if it's not relevant to your brand. So someone tagged Zappos service, so that'd be their customer service channel on Twitter, and said, hey, it's not a normal question, but by any chance, can you suggest a good hairdresser near the Ritz Marina del Rey? That's not related to Zappos shoes at all, right? But hey, Zappos replied, no problem. I've looked up a couple and they actually provide hairdressers for this person. That's just a great way to go the extra mile and build that relationship. You can provide a relevant resource in your response. For instance, someone tweeted at us Do you share clips of the podcast or just the entire download? I had a clip of a podcast, so I just replied, hey, we do have some snippets. Here's one, check it out. And he actually replied to this and was like, oh, this is great, thank you. So connect people to your resources. What are they asking? How can you help them? So that's just a dive into how Twitter works with your customer support team and can help each other. Now let's dive into how Twitter can help your product and marketing teams. So you can set up product-specific searches. What are people saying about your product? You can then use this as feedback to your product team. Monitor your mentions. Are people asking a particular question on a particular topic? You're going to want to pass this on to your content marketing team. Like, hey, people are confused about this topic. Hey, maybe we can write a blog post or a guide that will help them. That's a way also to discover content gaps. So you can listen for user questions, trending topics, chatter at events, and you can see what are you missing in your content marketing strategy that you can address these questions or chatter or trending topics. You can also monitor your competitors. You can spy on them on Twitter. You can learn about new product or service releases, stuff they're tweeting about, new fun marketing campaigns, or even new content pieces. You can see, hey, they wrote this really cool blog post about this topic. We don't have anything on that. Let's write an entire guide about it. So use it to kind of guide your strategy.